Now let's look at the graphing feature on your calculator. So what you'll notice first off is the word graph. But in order to use the graph, we need to click the y equals just to see what's going on. Now you'll notice that we do have y equals. So it should tell you something immediately that the equation that you need to graph has to be y equals. So let's just write an equation. Y equals 2x. Now, let's suppose that you're at a plain screen and you want to graph y equals 2x. So we want to click the y equals. We want to click the 2, and then beside the alpha key, which may be green on your calculator, it may be a different color depending on which one you're using, you'll see a button that has an X on it. That's the X we want to use. So now I have y equals 2x. And so I'm ready to graph. So all I do is hit graph. And there we have the line, y equals 2x. Couple things to consider. Above the graph key you'll see the table. The table is yellow. So if I hit the yellow key first, you'll notice the up arrow appears. And then the graph key, you'll see a table of values. What these are points that are actually on the line that I just graphed that come from the equation y equals 2x. So second graph gives us the table. And if you're wondering algebraically where those come from, when x is 1, I substitute the 1 in. 2 times 1 is 2. When x is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. And I can actually move up and down to get some negative values also. And that's really all you're doing when you're graphing. So let's go ahead and graph something else. Let's just graph y equals x minus 7. So I'm back to the y equals. So I'm going to hit clear to clear out that equation, expression. And we're going to type in y equals, which I already have, and then x minus 7. Then graph. There's that line. Let's graph y equals 2x divided by x minus 7. Now on this one I want to make sure that I have this written or typed in correct form. So what that means is I need to put the numerator inside parentheses and the denominator. So anytime you have a fraction you're not for sure, always use parentheses. So let's type in parentheses 2x close parentheses divided by x minus 7. Close parentheses and hit graph. It's going to be a strange looking graph, but that's how you type it in. If you're taking college algebra or need college algebra or ever do take college algebra, you'll learn more about these types of graphs. And by the way, if you are taking college algebra, you may notice a few things here and there. Something that's going to be really common is an error. That's a big deal in college algebra, so keep that in mind. Let's say that you want to graph y equals x squared. So I already have the x, I can use that, and then a 2, or use that as my square, and then graph. And you'll see that. It's parabola. Let's say we want to type in y equals negative x squared. So let's go to y equals, I can clear it out. I could have done other things. Let's say you use that as your negative. You see that error? Anytime that happens, I recommend hitting 2 for go to, and it takes you out to the error. I have a subtraction when I should have had this negative. Notice the size of the subtraction sign compared to this negative that I'm about to hit. See how much smaller it became and where it changed places? That's how you can tell a difference. Let's graph a couple more things. Erase these first. We want to play around a little bit with some of the other features. So we know that y equals x looks like or y equals x squared looks like a big old U. So let's look at y equals x squared minus 12. So let's type in x squared minus 12. Graph. Now I don't see that bottom U, but I want to see it. So there's a couple things I can do. One thing is I can look at the window. The window is negative 10 to 10 with scales of 1. That's for x min, x max, y min, y max. What that means is, if I were to count these notches, this would be a negative 10, right side would be positive 10, down would be a negative 10, up would be a positive 10. I'm going to tell you that this minus 12 means that we've taken that U and moved it down 12 places. So what that means is this y min needs to be changed. So I'm going to go down to the y min and change it to negative 20. I can change them all. I'm going to change y min to negative 20. So when I graph it, you can now see the bottom portion of the parabola. Now keep this in mind. Anytime I make changes in the window, if I hit zoom 6, which is standard, it takes it back to the original settings. So zoom 6 is what you want to keep in mind. Now looking at the zoom again, I can always type in or use these other features of the zoom. One feature I'm going to use is zoom fit. So I can get to that by going up or down. If I go down, it's going to be 0. Or I could have went up, which is faster. Then hit enter. And it also allows you to see that bottom part of the parabola. Once again though, zoom 6 is where you want to end. Another feature I want you to see does involve the table. Like for example, this 4, 4 is a point. And also 8, 52. And those are found by substituting the x, the 4 for the x or the 8 for the x, and 7 for y. But I want to show you a feature. It's the trace feature. So if I hit trace, you'll notice an x and y pop up. If I hit 4 and I hit enter, it's going to give me the value. X is 4 gives us the value of y equals 4. I don't have to hit trace again, or I could, but I can hit the 8 also. But before I do that, notice that the 4, 4, that point is flashing. Keep that in mind. So I'm going to hit trace and then the 8, and when I hit enter, we better get 52 for the y value, which we do. So what the trace feature does is it substitutes values in for the x. So if I want to hit the 0 for the x, I better get 0 squared, which is 0 minus 12, which is negative 12. So let's hit 0. Then enter. And there we go, negative 12. Now watch this. If I hit enter again, it reshapes the graph to where I can see the point that I just inserted for the trace, 0, negative 12. What it does is it centers the graph at that point. So if I hit trace and then like 2, enter. If I hit enter again, it centers that. The only reason why you may want to use that feature is for the vertex. That's what that's called, by the way. But once again, zoom 6 is what you want to use. Another feature that I want to talk about before I leave this video, I want to graph the y equals absolute value of x. I haven't mentioned absolute values in previous videos, so I'm going to now. The easiest way to get to the absolute value bars is under the catalog, which is Shift 0, ABS. So when you see the arrow beside the ABS, just hit enter. And then we type in the X, close parentheses, and I'm going to graph it, and it will be a V. And then once again, from previous videos, if you want to graph cube roots or fourth roots, whatever it may be, you can find them under the math key. So if I want to graph the fourth root or the cube root of x, that's how I type it in. So just play around with that. If you have any questions, ask your instructor.